Welcome to Facts, Opinions, and Real Talk. I'm your host, Heather Honey. In this video, I will be diving into the remaining of the who's who of individuals surrounding the Officer JohnOKeefe and Karen Read case. If you missed part 1, the link will be in the description below. Since August of 2023, I have diligently been following this case. And I'm pleased that Karen Read's trial is now receiving the attention it merits. It is essential to reiterate my stance. I fully endorse law enforcement, but I do not support corruption, corrupt cops, bad apples. Based on the evidence presented to the public and observations during the pretrial hearings, I hold the belief that Karen Read is innocent. If that's not your stance, then you don't have to watch this video. You can go somewhere else, and that's fine. This is just what I believe based on facts that I saw during the pretrial motions that were for the public to hear and see. Now, unless evidence comes out during her trial that proves otherwise, I will believe she is innocent. Because defendants are considered innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And I think a lot of people forget that. It's like once somebody's indicted for murder or some crime, it's like, oh, they did it. And that's not always the case, and I've learned that the past couple of years. The first trial that I followed was the Travis Rudolph, and that really opened up my mind and my eyes to about the defense side of court, and that in that case, I didn't think he was guilty, and there's been others that I haven't felt they were guilty, and so the same with this case. Last week, I believe, we have completed day 21 of this trial. Now, I'm not the quick and let's get all, breaking news type content creator. I wanted to do these series of videos to kind of show you how I came along to get to the point of the trial. And I wanted to share with some people who have no idea, and this is like the first they've ever heard of it. I want you to know who the people are. You're going to hear names a lot, and you're going to be like, who's that? So this is kind of, an introduction to, or the Cliff Notes version of some of these people. You wouldn't think there were so many people that were surrounding this case in so many different ways. I'm not just saying like guilty or shady business, but this case has affected so many people, including myself, that it has to be talked about. So before we get started, please like and subscribe to my channel. Also click the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. By doing so, it helps get the word out about this case through the YouTube algorithm. I want to start every video with the introduction of the victim. And that victim is Officer JohnOKeefe. Officer JohnOKeefe was 46 years old when he passed away on January 29th, 2022, under mysterious circumstances. He was living in Canton, Massachusetts, and was the guardian of his niece and nephew. Officer JohnOKeefe was a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department. At the time of his death, he was in a relationship with Karen Read. Throughout the pretrial hearings and also currently going on in this trial, Officer JohnOKeefe is not acknowledged as officer. They either call him Mr. O'Keefe or John O'Keefe, and I don't know why. And I've kind of like went on different social media platforms, and so far a lot of people don't know why either. So I don't know if there was something that wasn't privy to the public that the court, decided, okay, we're not going to call him officer. We're just going to call him Mr. O'Keefe or John O'Keefe. But I don't like it. And I find it very disrespectful. I mean, everybody else is an officer. Give him his title. He deserves it. He deserved it. So whatever reason that the court made this decision not to call him Officer John O'Keefe is also a mystery within itself. I also want to bring up about the suspect, Karen Reed. Karen Reed worked as a financial analyst at Fidelity Investments since 2007 and was also an adjunct professor at Bentley University. Karen and John dated in the past, and from what I understand, and they reignited their relationship in 2019. At the time of Officer O'Keefe's death, Miss Reed resided in Mansfield. Karen Reed has been charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence of alcohol, and leaving the scene of personal injury and death. Okay, so like I said, I just wanted to give you those reminders about our victim and the suspect. So now we're going to start with the second part of Who's Who. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor. And he is the lead investigator in the investigation. Now, keep in mind, I said lead investigator because when we move on and get to the trial, there are going to be some changes made. And so I just want you to either, keep this in mind, or if you take notes, some of us take notes while we're watching trials and just to kind of keep things straight. But just keep that in mind that he was known to the public as the lead investigator in the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Proctor came under fire by the public due to allegations of misconduct. Proctor failed to conduct interviews of several of the witnesses who were either at 34 Fairview or drove by that address the night/morning that Officer John O'Keefe died. Some of the witnesses were not interviewed until 2023 by someone other than Proctor or the Norfolk DA's office. Now, remember, Officer John O'Keefe was found deceased January 29, 2022. So it wasn't until 2023. So it had to be at least over a year before some other people were interviewed. And when I say people, I'm not talking about like working the case and this, like, oh, we found some new possible witnesses, let's interview them. No, these are people they knew all along. Trooper Proctor kept evidence in his vehicle and not properly contained. So, in other words, he didn't take evidence and go log it in at the police department or wherever he was going to store the evidence properly. So keep that in mind as well. That's going to come up later. Proctor is currently under internal investigation. Again, I'll discuss more about Proctor when I cover opening statements.
At the time of editing this video, MSP Trooper Michael Proctor's text messages about Karen Reed and her attorney, David Yannetti, were read aloud in court. I am extremely disgusted with Proctor's texts and his lack of investigation into the death of Officer John O'Keefe. MSP Trooper Michael Proctor needs to be held accountable immediately.
Canton Police Chief Ken Berkowitz. He's retired. He was the chief of police the time of JohnOKeefe's death. The next day, just happened to be driving by 34 Fairview and spotted some pieces of taillight. I don't know if he was just driving and it caught his attention, but found pieces of taillight that's supposedly Karen Reed's SUV, but he found it in the yard. He retired in June of 2022. I don't know if it's related to the case or not, but I just wanted to let you know when he retired. The new chief of police is Helena Rafferty. Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey. I can't help but laugh because I don't even know what to tell you about him, except there's a video that he put out for the public to address things that were going on during the investigation of Officer JohnOKeefe's death. And what he said was just, he said things that he didn't know was true or not, and now we know they're not. But anyways, I'm going to play his video, and I'll let you hear it, and I'll probably stop and we'll chit-chat about it. But anyways, okay, so let me play the video.
This will be the first statement of its kind in my dozen years as Norfolk District Attorney. The harassment of witnesses in the murder prosecution of Karen Reed is absolutely baseless. It should be an outrage to any decent person, and it needs to stop. Innuendo is not evidence. False narratives are not evidence. However, what evidence does show is that JohnOKeefe never entered the home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton the night he died. Location data from his phone, recovered from the lawn beneath his body when he was transported to the hospital, shows that his phone did not enter that home.
Normally, like when I'm watching a district attorney do a press conference, they're, asking for if anybody has any information, contact the agency that's working on the case, which in this case would be the Massachusetts State Police Department, or reassuring the public that, they're working on this. Why are you doing this video? It just, I'm floored. And word on the internet, I'm hoping it's a joke, but they're saying this is how you, they're going to show in law classes that this is how you do not do a press conference if you're the district attorney or probably any attorney. Let's continue to listen to see what Morrissey has to say.
11 people have given statements that they did not see JohnOKeefe enter the home at 34 Fairview that night. 0 people.
11 people stated that they did not see JohnOKeefe. Now, these were what we talked about in the Who's Who Part 1, the people that were at the house and the people that, happened to drive by or like was going to pick up somebody or whatever. But it's like, how do you know they weren't interviewed properly? But he's saying, that this is what happened, and don't do that. All right, let's continue.
People have said that they saw him enter the home. 0, no one. Some have, without any evidence, pointed to 18-year-old Colin Albert, a nephew of the homeowner, and accused him of attacking JohnOKeefe as he entered the home. But phone evidence shows O'Keefe never entered the home at all. Testimony from witnesses tell us that 18-year-old Colin Albert had left his uncle's home before JohnOKeefe and Karen Reed had arrived outside the residence.
The reason that he's bringing Colin Albert up in this video, in the beginning, the people that were interviewed stated that Colin was not in the house, that he wasn't there. And then, come to find out, he was there. So, of course, when the public found out, they were outraged. And it even looked more shady, like, why were these people covering up that Colin wasn't there? Why didn't they just say, yeah, he was there? I mean, it's just really weird. And then you've got this district attorney coming out with his video saying, and these people didn't see this. In other words, he's like trying to take up for them. He's not their attorney. Why is he doing a press conference to, I don't know, take up for these people and their statements that we don't even know if it's true or not?
Fight inside that home. JohnOKeefe did not enter the home. Colin Elbert, the young man being vilified, was not.
How did they know that Officer JohnOKeefe didn't enter the home if there wasn't a proper investigation?
Present when Reed's vehicle and JohnOKeefe arrived on the street. This is a false narrative. Colin Elbert didn't commit murder. Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Elbert. These people were not.
Now, see, he's listing some of the witnesses. In other words, it sounds like they went whining to him saying, we're getting picked on because people are saying we did it. And okay, well, what about Karen Reed? What about her? People just, I mean, this happened to her boyfriend on the 29th, and by February the 2nd or 1st, she was arrested. If you're going to take up for them and not be biased, then you need to be taking up for her as well. And Officer JohnOKeefe.
Part of a conspiracy and certainly did not commit murder or any crime that night. They have been forthcoming with authority, providing statements, and have not engaged in any cover-up. They are not suspects in any crime. They are merely witnesses in the case. To have them accused.
Again, how do you know this, District Attorney Morrissey? Just a thought.
Of murder is outrageous. To have them harassed and intimidated based on false narratives and accusations is wrong. They are witnesses doing what our justice system asks of them. The autopsy of JohnOKeefe was conducted by a forensic pathologist from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
Okay, I want you to listen just a minute when he's talking about the Chief Medical Examiner, what, I believe it's a she, says about it. So just be sure to listen to this and then I'll talk about it.
The doctor found that the injuries that left John helpless in the cold were not a result of a fight.
Okay. For those of you true crime people, you know when a medical examiner, they're looking at the body and they're trying to make sense of the wounds or what happened to the victim. They never say it didn't happen because of a fight. It didn't happen because of they fell down the steps and got a boo-boo on their knee. I mean, they don't write that way. So that was very suspicious. I think like investigators are sometimes in there with the medical examiner, maybe to get some more info, but not to guide them and tell them that, hey, put in this report that blah, blah, blah. Now, did that happen? I don't know, but it was just odd because that is not normal. But in this case, what has been normal?
She further found that the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack. A grand jury of everyday citizens heard the documented evidence and testimony before making.
Okay, and just a reminder from video 1 of Who's Who, he mentioned the dog bites or animal attack because of the German Shepherd Chloe that nobody seems to know where she is. So, because they don't know where the dog is. I just know, at first I thought it was some weird tool marks. You'll see his arm in the trial. Thank goodness they don't show his body, but I do think showing his arm is very, very important, at least for the public to know, for full transparency. But I'm very glad they don't show his full autopsy because I've seen most of it and it's not necessary for the public to see all of it. But the arm part was very, very important because it's very unusual.
A decision. The subject of that murder indictment enjoys the constitutional presumption of innocence. Why should the witnesses who have committed no crime be afforded less by members of the community? They should not be harassed for telling the government what they heard or saw. I'm asking the Canton community and everyone who feels invested in this case to hear all the actual evidence at trial before assigning guilt to people who have done nothing wrong. And certainly before taking it upon yourself to harass citizens who evidence shows have done nothing in this matter but come forward and bear witness. We try people in the court and not on the internet for a reason. The internet has no rules of evidence. The internet has no punishment for perjury. And the internet does not know all the facts. Conspiracy
But we know some of the facts, and they don't add up.
theories are not evidence. The idea that multiple police department, EMTs, fire personnel, the medical examiner, and prosecuting agencies are joined in or taken in by a vast conspiracy should be seen for what it is, completely contrary to the evidence and a desperate attempt to reassign guilt. Michael Proctor, the state police trooper, being accused of planting evidence.
Okay, so this part about Trooper Michael Proctor, Morrissey shouldn't have said. Again, he doesn't know all the facts. So, things will be coming out in opening statements and in the trial that will contradict DA Morrissey's statements. Let's continue.
Outside 34 Fairview Road was never at Fairview Road on the day of the incident. Proctor and his state police partner traveled together the entire day while other officers were processing 34 Fairview. Trooper Proctor was not there and did not plant evidence at 34 Fairview Road. In addition to having no opportunity to plant the evidence, as has been suggested, Proctor would have no motive to do so. Trooper Proctor had no close personal relationship with any of the parties involved in the investigation and had no conflict. And he had no reason to step out of this investigation. Every suggestion to the contrary is a lie. This should be seen for what it is and not used as a pretext to attack and harass others. What is happening to the witnesses, some with no actual involvement in the case, is wrong. It is contrary to the American values of fairness and the constitutional value of a fair trial. It needs to stop now.
Okay, I think we get the picture. I can't. Anyways, I just can't wait for those that have not seen or heard the trial and you're going to watch it with me. I just cannot wait. And then I'll remind you about this video right here that Morrissey has put out. And since this public video that he made, he hasn't really been heard from. Anyways, it seems like he's been kind of low-key. All right, so the next person that I wanted us to talk about is prosecutor for the Commonwealth, which is Assistant District Attorney Adam Lawley. Now, I'm going to say this. A lot of people don't like him. He gets on my nerves. But I kind of feel bad for him. I feel like, did you ever play the game Hot Potato as a kid? Okay, well, I feel that Lawley got caught with the hot potato. And the hot potato being Karen Reed's trial. And I'm sure he's exhausted. We know this investigation was not done properly. And what he has to do as a prosecutor is he has to take the case that law enforcement presents him, and he has, the evidence and the information and the witness statements and whatever they used, and he's got to try to make a case to prosecute Karen Reed for the murder of Officer JohnOKeefe. And it's a hot mess. I mean, I don't even know how he's functioning, because I would be tore up because it is a mess. The next person, oh gosh, I really have to bite my tongue on this one. The next person I want to bring up is Judge Beverly Canton, aka Auntie Bev. So her nickname Auntie Bev, it actually comes from Turtleboy, and a lot of these people have nicknames. So if you ever watch Turtleboy, he has nicknames for these people, and some of them I thought that was their names, or I thought that was their last name, but it usually either has to do with something they've done, or just, I don't know, he's just being an ass and came up with a nickname. Like for Adam Lolly, he'd call him Lunchbox Lolly. And Auntie Bev, I will be showing you a video as to why she is called Auntie Bev. I'm not going to speak for everyone else. I'm going to speak for myself on this. I don't like her. I don't like how she conducts her courtroom. I do not like how she speaks to the attorneys. It doesn't matter if it's the prosecution or the defense. And I don't like her. Yeah, she's not a nice person. She just plays one on TV. The video I'm going to show you, it was from July of 2023. Alan Jackson, who is one of Karen Read's defense attorneys, is talking about a motion that they are requesting for the judge to recuse herself from this case. Remember, Canton, Massachusetts is a small community. Everybody knows everybody. They are going to show her. I know some people that are kin to the people that are witnesses in this trial. And I think if you even know somebody's name that has anything to do with this case, you need to recuse yourself. I mean, why would you take that risk? Oh yeah, and that's the other thing he's talking to her about is the speed of getting responses. Judges handle things differently, I understand that. Some can rule from the bench right there. They'll be like, they'll listen to what they have to say. They'll listen to what, in this case, she'll listen to what the Commonwealth has to say about the motion, and then, she'll, rule. Or sometimes they may take time and then, a brief recess and then come back. Sometimes it may be days, weeks, months, and some of these she hasn't gotten back to them in a timely fashion, and that has been a problem. If you watch the pretrial hearings, that this has been a problem for the defense. They're not getting answers back in a timely manner. I mean, they didn't get up until like days before the trial, and I'm not just talking about her decision, but things that they've requested from the prosecution. DNA stuff, wasn't tested until over a year later. And the defense just wants to look at it. I mean, it's the defendant's right to have access to that. That's the whole thing about discovery. They have to go over that so that they can prepare for their client. And frustrating. I would find myself so mad at these pretrial motions. When people are like watching the trial and they're like, oh, the defense, they just threw that in there. Well, okay, here's a couple of reasons why. The Commonwealth and the defense both told her that they wanted to wait before going to trial. They wanted to put it off. They needed more time. She said, no, we are going to have this trial when she wanted it. That's another issue that I have with her. Everybody didn't have everything, but we're going to go to trial anyways. That's a problem. And then you'll learn that some of the evidence that they've seen in trial has been tweaked. But we will cover that when I get to that part. In this video, you can tell she is pissed off. Number one of Karen Read's attorneys, well, actually two, are from California. So she's got this thing where I'm sure. Now, this is my speculation, so I just want to make sure that's out there, that she didn't like Alan Jackson. and Miss Little, because they're from California and they're out here in Massachusetts. Another thing that she's done, and it pissed me off, they'll have a pretrial hearing. They'll have several to go over all these motions so that they can be ready. And I'm talking about the Commonwealth too, so that they can be ready for this trial. Now, you've got Alan Jackson and Liza Little flying all the way from California just to come for the pretrial motion. And it'll be like 1 that day. And Karen has to pay, she's paying these legal fees for these California attorneys to, come out there. And, that includes travel. Auntie Bev would hold, we're going to do a pretrial motion hearing, blah, 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 talking about whatever they're going to talk about. It would last 10 minutes and it was over. And then she wouldn't have another one until the next week or a few days later. So it was like, because a lot of people, when they're scheduling, judges are scheduling with the attorneys, they really try to work with them. And in this case, I don't think so.
Not really sought to advance motions that have been advanced by the Commonwealth while still not ruling on motions that we've had before the bench for not just days or weeks, but now months. And it's the disparity in that treatment. Look, I don't disregard the fact that the court is a very busy court, that the court is a supervising court. The court has a lot of balls in the air. It's the disparity between the court's rulings in terms of the Commonwealth's motions and the defense motions that I think give the public pause, and that's where we need to start our analysis. Number 2, the court seems to have deviated from the normal course of procedure, in this case, in order to specifically stay on the Karen Reed case. And the court only made that known, or at least known to us, to the defense, after the Commonwealth filed a request to gag the defense.
I feel like she is just holding back, and she won't look at him, and she just looks like this is annoying and wasting her time. But that's just my commentary, but I really think that's the truth.
Number 3, the court outright denied Ms. Reed a full and fair opportunity to be heard, if the court recalls, the last time we were here.
And that's one of the reasons that it's so important to have defense attorneys, because they are there to make sure that the rights of Americans are held in place. And sometimes they're not. Well, what am I saying sometimes? A lot of times they're not. And that's what they're arguing about in this.
On a critical Rule 17 motion. And that motion was from records, importantly, from the very same family that now claims to have a personal interest and a personal relationship with this court. Troublesome allegations, troublesome claims by the family at the very least. And that brings me to the final point and dovetails into that final point. Sean McCabe, a member of the McCabe family and a brother-in-law of Jennifer McCabe, whom we have argued in this court, should have at least been a suspect. Or a
You're going to show that this way, Ms. Little. Why don't you show it to me? Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So she's already pissed off because show it to me. Please just give Miss Little some, be nice to her because she seems sweet. And anyways, so what she's got, Miss Little is about to show is a placard or a big poster of the evidence that they have that someone is stating they know Judge Bev, and they are a member of the McCabe family. Looking at the board, it says Sean McCabe was saying something that made Turtleboy ask, do you really have a line to Judge Canton? And as you can see, it says, Auntie Bev, whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your corpse under? Now, that's not very nice. And if someone said that to me, I would have an issue and we'd be going to court. Let's continue.
And if that weren't enough, the defense has just recently received information that another witness, a seminal witness for the prosecution, by the name of Julie Nagel.
in video one, I kind of touched on Julie Nagel just a little bit, but she is a friend of Brian Albert Jr.'s who was there that night for his birthday party at 34 Fairview. And her brother Ryan Nagel was the one that pulled up to pick her up and saw Karen's vehicle. Then he and his crew left, and Julie decided to stay.
Who was in Julie Nagel, Nagel, who was inside the house at 34 Fairview on the night of John O'Keefe's death. Apparently some 5 months after John's murder, and this is all public. We didn't have to do any digging and searching with subpoenas or otherwise. This was all public information. She used a Venmo app.
Venmo is just an app that where you can pay somebody. You can put in the description what it's for. Sometimes people just use emojis to put what it's for. In the description, Julie Nagel put Frank and Beverly. Okay. And Judge Cannon's husband's name is Frank.
As soon as a reporter picked up on that, which is how we found out about it, and publicized that, she immediately took that payment down and took it off the internet. Obviously, I have no indication whatsoever, and I do not stand before this court suggesting that there's a connection.
I can't see that one, Ms. Little.
This is simply a screenshot.
Could you bring it closer? I have not seen the previous one, Ms. Little, just held up. I know you put the other one with your...
What you're looking at is a screenshot of her having taken down that Venmo payment after it became publicized, which obviously looks somewhat suspicious on her part. These are all instances that have been the subject of public discourse, not just the defense team sitting in a room pontificating. Every single one of these instances has been something that has been in the public discourse. And the public is questioning this court's ability to maintain fairness given the panoply of information that is now before it, all in public documents that we happen to be privy to because we're part of the public as well. Nothing that we had to do any deep searching for. Your Honor, there has been an undeniable erosion of public confidence in this court's ability to be fair. But let me be very, very clear. The decision to recuse or disqualify a court due to the appearance of impartiality is not an indictment of this court's competence or integrity. It is not an indictment of this court's character. Nowhere close, and we do not aver that at all. Rather, the decision should be an expression of the unwavering commitment that this court has to justice, to fairness, to the rule of law. That's all.
I have to applaud Alan Jackson for how he is approaching this. He could have been an ass and said all this, but actually he's being super nice to maybe someone that doesn't quite deserve it.
22-117. All right, thank you. So I appreciate the arguments of counsel. I've considered those arguments. I've considered the pleadings, the motion, the attached affidavits, the big pack of attachments to the motions. I've considered those placards that were shown here today. A couple of them I hadn't seen before.
Okay, blah, blah. I can't handle her anymore. Okay, I'm done about her. Anyways, this right here is why I think she has behaved the way she has from the pretrial motions to what's going on in the trial. So moving along, because I need to stay in a decent mood, and she does not put me in a decent mood. The next person we're going to talk about is Turtleboy. A little bit about Turtleboy. He is a blogger turned investigative journalist. And I'm going to give him that because, you know, a lot of people are like, he's just a blogger. Just because he doesn't work for some, you know, media outlet like that's well known or whatever, doesn't mean he's not a journalist. I mean, he's the one that has got out there and asked questions of people that the police didn't even do. If it weren't for him following this case and following the leads, Officer JohnOKeefe's death and Karen Reed's case and trial would not even have gotten the recognition it's gotten. I personally think Turtleboy's commentaries are hilarious. I mean, he's not for everybody, and he can be offensive to some. I think it's funny as hell. Oh yeah, and he was arrested because of this case.
I remember when I first saw this story last year, I don't know. I remember looking at it. Obviously, I look at stories like this, and I just didn't have a take on it. Like when I remember seeing the headlines that a Boston police officer was run over in a driveway by his girlfriend in a snowstorm, and that she didn't realize she had done it until afterwards. And I went on her LinkedIn, and I'm like, I remember looking at her thing. I'm like, oh man, this woman's sharp. You know, normally you don't expect that. Like, college educated, works at a university, work good with numbers. Like, you'd probably want to hire her. And it's like, but everybody makes mistakes. You know, anyone could have too much to drink and just heat of the moment do something like that. And I think that's kind of how it was portrayed. So I didn't really have an opinion. So I don't write about stories that I don't have strong opinions on. But something about it just didn't smell right.
Reed has all these supporters. You know, you got Turtleboy, you got the Canton 9, and when I say supporters, I mean, I'm not just talking about 10 people.
Listen up, sir. And I'll speak slowly so you understand. My Morrissey, we ain't got no quit.
It just gives you an idea of the support that this woman is getting. And why do I think so many people are supporting her? I'll tell you why. Because they know that corruption in their town has been going on for a long time. And they've had enough. Some of these people are at the age, and you do get at an age where you're just tired of the shit. You don't care, you know, meaning you don't care about if somebody bullies you. Whether or not you think she's innocent or guilty, I think it's fantastic that this community is coming together to fight for what they believe in and to get things changed. And when I say things change, laws change, make sure, you know, people are doing their jobs properly. Currently, Canton had a special town meeting where they voted for the Canton Police Department to be audited, and they won. It turns out, and yes, I watched their select board meetings and the police audit meetings because it's very interesting. Because if we don't fix things at home, which I'm going to really start, you know, getting into some of my own hometown meetings, and just, you know, you've got to pay attention. If there's something you don't like or you don't think is going on that you think is right, that's going on in your town, get involved. I mean, don't be scared, because changes can't be made if people are sitting home complaining and hiding out. But just get more involved. It's that time. People are listening. People are watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share. You know, it helps with that algorithm, because I really want this case to be out there. And there's still, like, to this moment, there's people that have no idea about this case. And this is so, so important. There's so many stories linked to this that it could affect you. It could affect me in our hometowns. And this is something that we could learn from. So, and it's just important. It's important to me. And that's why I've taken the time to do this video. So until next time, stay safe, be aware of your surroundings, and please do the right thing.